Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Sprinkle Cupcake Backpack, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please go to the link in the description or go to your favorite search engine and type in Moogly Blog Sprinkle Cupcake Backpack. For this pattern, we're using a USI 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. And because we need this pattern to stand up to kids and adults as well, we are using Red Heart Super Saver. I've used Red Heart Super Saver Jumbo in gold and cherry red, and I've used Red Heart Super Saver Jumbo Speckle in white speckle to create this really cute icing. To complete your backpack, you'll also need two 56-inch long nylon or poly type of cord like you see here. You could also use a crocheted or knitted I-cord if preferred, and if you're making this for an adult, you'll want to make the straps longer and adjust them to fit the individual. It's also helpful, of course, to have stitch markers as well as scissors and your standard yarn needle. Let's take a quick look at the finished Sprinkle Cupcake Backpack. The Sprinkle Cupcake Backpack is made in two pieces, the front and then the back. Then they are seamed up the sides, and we add a little bit of, well, I guess you could call it mesh up here, that we put our ropes through. Send the ropes through a hole that we put in the bottom, tie it off, and you've got a great drawstring. You can see here how it opens right back up. You can see here we used our solid color Red Heart Super Saver to make the cupcake liner, and then we used the speckle to make the top icing part. For the back, I just used some more of the gold, but you can of course use whichever colors that you like. Here on the back, we've used linked treble crochet stitches, while the front is made up of post stitches, as well as some back loop and third loop stitches for up here. Let's go ahead and get started making another Sprinkle Cupcake Backpack. First, we'll make the front of the bag. We're going to start with whichever color we want our cupcake liner to be, as well as the back of our bag, because we're working from the bottom up. So with our first color, we're going to start by working 39 foundation double crochets. To do that, I start with a slip knot and then I chain 2. To make the first foundation double crochet, I'm going to yarn over and go into the underneath hump of the very first chain, the one right next to the slip knot. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Now with 3 loops on our hook, we have our active loop, our yarn over, and the loop we just pulled up through that chain. From here on out, those 2 chains are simply counted as a turning chain, not as a stitch. To make our first foundation double crochet, we have that loop at the bottom. That will become the chain at the bottom of our first stitch. So we yarn over and pull a loop up through that chain. Then to finish our double crochet, we yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. To make the second foundation double crochet, we want to look for the horizontal bar there at the bottom of the previous stitch. We yarn over and insert our hook right above or below, depending on your perspective, that bar. You can see there's another loop right there behind it. We want to insert our hook right above those 2 loops. Yarn over and pull up a loop. And now this loop that we just pulled up will be the chain at the bottom of our second stitch. So we yarn over and pull up 1 through the chain, then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. All the rest of our foundation double crochets are just like this previous one. We yarn over, look for the bar at the bottom of the previous stitch, insert our hook straight back so that we get that loop and the loop right behind it, yarn over, pull up a loop, give it a little wiggle. We want to make sure that this loop is nice and tall. Yarn over and pull through 1, then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Keep doing this until you have a total of 39 stitches. So at the end of row 1, you should have a total of 39 stitches. I'm demonstrating on a smaller piece today. For row 2, we chain 1 and half double crochet in the first stitch. If you'd like, you can go ahead and put stitch markers in the first stitch of each row. After that, we front post double crochet around the next 2 stitches. So we want to yarn over and find the next stitch, come in from the front on one side, around the back of the stitch, and up to the front of the fabric again. Yarn over, pull that loop up and around the post, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Then we do that again around the next stitch. We yarn over, find the post of the next stitch, come in on the side, around the back, and pop out again to the front of the fabric. Yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. After that, we're going to half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So we yarn over, find the next stitch, half double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now I need to pull up just a little bit more yarn from my skein. There we go. After that, we begin the repeat that takes us the rest of the way across our row. We front post double crochet around the next 3 stitches and then half double crochet in the 3 stitches after that. We continue that until just 3 stitches are left. So on our little sample here, we're going to get there a lot faster. So I'm going to yarn over, find the next stitch, make a front post double crochet. That means we come from the front around the post. So there's 1. Here's 2. And then 3. And then we half double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. And we keep doing that until we get to the very last 3 stitches here at the end of our row. We're going to front post double crochet in the next 2. So there's 1 and 2. And then we finish with a half double crochet in the very last stitch. So if we started with 39 stitches in our first row, you should have 39 stitches in all the rest of your rows on the front of the bag. So we're just working even. You can see here, having finished row 2, that row 2 represents the right side of the bag. So make sure as you put your bag together, this would be what the back looks like here in this section. And in the front is where we're going to have these nice rows of front post double crochet stitches. So let's get ready for row 3. For row 3, we start again with a chain 1 and a half double crochet in the first stitch. Then we want to maintain the look of our fabric, particularly from the right side. So to do that, we're going to back post double crochet around each front post double crochet. So that means we yarn over, we find the post of the next stitch there, and now we're going to come from behind the stitch around the front and pop our hook back out to the back of the fabric. Then we yarn over and pull that loop through. It can help to really pinch your fabric together here to make it more of a clear shot, to pull that loop up and around that stitch. Then we yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Back post double crochets can be a little bit trickier, so be sure to take your time with these, and you can go ahead and pull it out and start that stitch over if you need to. Let's do it again. We yarn over, go ahead and pull your fabric apart and find the post there of that next stitch. So we can yarn over, come from behind, go around that post, pop back out to the back of the fabric, yarn over and pull a loop up just around that post, then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now, if we look at our fabric, we can see we're back at those 3 half double crochets. So we want to work a half double crochet in each of those half double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. This brings us to a section where we can see we have 3 what were front post double crochets from this side. From this side, we need to do back post double crochets. So we yarn over, come from behind, around the post, to the back of the fabric. Yarn over and pull up our loop. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, find the next post, come from behind, around the post of that stitch. Yarn over and pull our loop up and around. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. One more, we yarn over. That last one can want to hide, but it's there. Go ahead and take your time to pull it away from the rest of the stitches if needed. So you can yarn over, come from behind, and see a nice clear path to go around that post. Like so. Next, we have 3 half double crochets again. So we want a half double crochet in each of those. And we just keep working this way all the way across until we get to those last 3 stitches again. And of course, on my shortened little demo piece here, we've already gotten there. So now I need to back post double crochet around these last 2. So there's 1. And then 2. And then to keep our sides nice and even, we just half double crochet in that very last stitch. There we go. So here you can see we finished on a wrong side row. You can tell this from the little ridges here. It's apparent that we made back post double crochet stitches on this side. And from our right side here, we've got our front post double crochets going up nice and straight. So you're going to keep repeating row 2 and row 3 and row 2 and row 3 until you've made a total of 14 rows. 14th row will be a row 2 repeat here on the right side. When you get to the end of this row, you'll go ahead and break your yarn and turn, and we'll be ready to join color B. So here on our little swatch, I've finished on a right side row, and you can see what that looks like on the full-size backpack. When we work all the way through row 14, that brings us right up to here, and we'll be ready to join color B. So let's set that aside again and pull up our sample. Since we finished on a right side row, we need to turn before we join our next color, color B. Again, I use the white sprinkle, but you can use whichever color of sprinkle you like. And because the white is a little harder to see on our white background here, I'm going to bring in the purple paper to help us see our stitches while we're using this particular yarn. So get it untangled from my fingers here and all straightened out. We can lay out our piece A and we're ready to join color B. So this is the part that starts with row 15. So with color B, we're going to join to our first stitch with a half double crochet. So the way I like to do that is to just drop a loop on my hook there. You could also start with a slip knot if you prefer. Then I yarn over, insert my hook right in that very first stitch right there. There we go. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through that loop, behind the yarn over, and behind the loop that was on my hook. Now I've got my first half double crochet made, and I'm ready to continue across the row. Now we simply half double crochet in each remaining stitch across. A very easy row to get us started. I'm just going to let that end hang out there, and I'll go ahead and weave that in when I weave in the rest of my ends. So for row 15, join with a half double crochet and simply half double crochet across. If you don't like to join with half double crochet, you could certainly join with a slip stitch, chain 1, and then simply half double crochet in each stitch. Again, we're not increasing or decreasing, so you should still have 39 stitches at the end of this row. So here's what it should look like at the end of row 15, although a bit larger. Now we're ready for row 16. For row 16, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work a back loop only half double crochet in each stitch across. So we yarn over and we look at the top of each stitch. Here, right there, is the V at the top of our first stitch. The loop that is closest to us is the front loop. The one that's furthest away there is the back loop. So I'm going to yarn over and go under just that back loop, yarn over again, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 to finish my half double crochet. It's just like a standard half double crochet, but worked under that back loop only. So we simply back loop only, half double crochet in each stitch across. Just insert your hook right in the middle of that V so that you just pick up the back loop when you insert it into the stitch. Again, we'll want to work evenly with 1 stitch in each stitch across. So I'll see you when we get to the end of row 16. Now you can see what it looks like at the end of row 16. By working into the back loop only, we've got the front loop and that back horizontal loop of the previous row showing to the front, creating a really nice effect. Now to get that effect on the other side, for row 17, we're going to chain 1, and half double crochet in the front third loop of each stitch across. Well, what does that mean? By front, it means it's going to be the one facing us, but third loop, we mean it's not the top two loops, it's the loop down here. Because we've turned our work, we're looking at the back of the previous row. Because we worked the previous row from this side, when we flip it over, we're looking at the back. And each stitch has not only the two loops at the top, but this horizontal bar right across the back here. That is the loop we want to pick up and work under as we work this row. So let me yarn over here, find the working yarn again. There we go. I'm going to come down here and find that horizontal bar right across the first stitch. I go right underneath it, up and away from me towards those other two loops. Don't come from the top. We still want to come from underneath. Yarn over, pull up our loop, and then we can finish our half double crochet as we normally would, pulling through all three loops. Yarn over, go to the next stitch, and find that horizontal bar again. We can check and make sure that we're in the right spot by turning our work over. And if we do that, we can see those top two loops have been pushed to the front of our fabric. So simply continue to work half double crochets under that front third loop all the way across for row 17. So this is what it should look like after row 17. You can see here we're on the wrong side of our fabric. We can tell that by the ridges in the bottom section, but you can see up here how it's kind of flat. But if we turn it over, by working in that third loop now, we've pushed the top two loops forward. So it's a little different than the row before, but it's a great way to create this wonderful horizontal ridge of texture. And we're going to continue repeating rows 16 and 17. Remember, 16 is back loop only, 17, worked from the wrong side, is half double crochet in that front third loop, repeating those all the way for 35 rows. That's 35 total, starting from the first row down here in color A. After row 35, you should be able to block your piece out to about 11 inches wide by 15 inches long. If you'd like to make it longer or shorter, that's fine. Just take a note of what size you've worked to so you can make sure to make your back the same size. After establishing our width here with row 1, all the rest of the rows of the back of our bag are worked the same in linked treble crochets. So let's do that together. We're going to start by chaining 3. 1, 2, and 3. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my hook in the back hump here of the second chain from the hook. You can see I chained 3, so I'm going to come to the second one and turn it over and look at the back. Insert my hook right under that hump there. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Then I'm going to go to that next chain, the very first chain I made. Insert my hook and yarn over and pull up a loop. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn. You can see here I was working across the top of my work. Now I'm going to turn, insert my hook in the top of that first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then I start working it off just like a treble crochet. Yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. The remainder of the row is worked a little differently. We find the horizontal bars in our previous stitch. You can see here's the top of the stitch. There's one horizontal bar there, and there's another horizontal bar there. We are going to insert our hook right through from the top to the bottom, that first horizontal bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then we do the same thing for the next one. From the top to the bottom of the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then we find the next stitch in the previous row, insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then we work off our treble as usual. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Let's do a couple more of those together. Look for those bars in the previous stitch. Insert our hook from top to bottom, underneath the first one, yarn over and pull up a loop. Find the next one, insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Find the next stitch of the previous row, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then work them off in pairs. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Let's do one more. If we pull our stitches apart, you can see how it's even easier to see those two bars. We go from top to bottom, under the one closest to the top, yarn over and pull up a loop. We find the next one, insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, find the next stitch, insert our hook, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. There we go. Now you can see by doing this, not only are we making great big tall stitches, but these stitches are all linked together, creating a really beautifully solid fabric. If you find that you do not enjoy making linked treble crochet stitches, you can instead work the entire back piece in single crochets for a nice tight fabric. That's really the most important part. I chose these because they're fun, they're tall, so they're a little bit faster, and I really like the fabric that they make as well. But either one of those will work just fine, as long as you get to, again, 11 inches by 15 inches. Otherwise, we just work this back and forth in rows, starting off exactly as we did here with a chain 3, working into that, and then working in each stitch across. If your gauge turns out to be the same as mine, it should take about 18 rows to get to the same height as the front of the bag with a little bit extra. So for row 19, I simply chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch across. Again, just to give us that little bit of extra height. So you can definitely play with your back piece and use whatever stitch you need to make sure it's the same size as the front of your Sprinkle Cupcake Backpack. So here again, you can see the back of the backpack and what that stitch looks like worked in rows. You see the lines, the horizontal lines there on one side of one row, but the back is smooth. So we just want to make sure, again, to work this so that it's the same width and height as the front piece after we've blocked them out. We've got one more piece to make before assembly, and that, of course, is the cherry on top, made with our red yarn. The cherry is really just a simple flat circle. We begin with our cherry color here, and we want to make a magic circle. So I go around my finger twice towards me. Then I take my hook, slip it right under both of those loops, grab the one that's furthest back, slide it under the other one, yarn over, pull that loop through, and now I'm ready to start stitching. I'm going to start with a chainless starting double crochet worked into the ring. If you prefer, you can chain 4 for your ring or use a different method to begin it and chain 3 for your first double crochet. I prefer to use this method. I'm going to pull my loop up to the height of a double crochet and secure the top of the loop with my finger on my hook. I yarn over with the loop itself, insert my hook into the ring, yarn over and pull a loop up and through. Yarn over again, pull through that loop, and right behind that yarn over. There it goes. Yarn over, and I can now release the top of that stitch to yarn over and pull through both of those loops. That is what I prefer to do instead of a chain 3, but you can do whatever kind of stitch you like. Then we want to continue with 11 more double crochets into that ring. So if you chain 3, it would be chain 3 and then 11 double crochets. However you like to do it, at the end of round 1, we want to have a total of 12 double crochets worked right into that ring. If you are making the magic ring, make sure that when you work into the circle, you also work over that tail, keeping it trapped within the bottom of your stitches so you can cinch up that circle when you're done. After you've worked a total of 12 double crochets, then we're going to take that tail end and pull down on it, and that will cinch up the center of our circle. Then we can join to the top of the chain 3 or the chainless starting double crochet, or however you like to start it, with a slip stitch. After that, as I say, we're just working standard circle around. So if you wanted to, you could start round 2 with a chain 3 and count that as your first double crochet, and then you can work right back in that same stitch for a second double crochet. Then in each stitch around for round 2, we want to put 2 double crochets in each stitch. We started with 12 stitches in round 1, so in round 2, we want to have a total of 24, increasing by 12. So you can see by putting 2 stitches in each stitch how this is going to continue making a flat circle all around. And if we go back to the original here, we can see how nice and flat it stays. 12 double crochets in the first round, 24 in the second round. We have 36 in the third round by working 2, then 1, 2, then 1, 2, then 1. Then for the fourth round, it's simply 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1 for 48 stitches total in round 4. Then we finish it off and we're ready to sew it on and assemble our bag. Now, if you haven't used them before, this is where your stitch markers are going to come in really handy. We want to take the front of our bag and the back of our bag and make sure that the front of our bag is facing out and that we match up the back of the bag nice and evenly across. Now, you're going to have a different number of stitches here, so it's okay if we can't match them up 1 to 1, but the width itself should fit as you see here. And we can take our stitch markers and just match them up so that it's the same width and the same height on either side. The back doesn't really have a front or a back, so it doesn't really matter. But again, we want to make sure that the front side of our bag is facing out. Once we've used our stitch markers to connect those layers all the way around, then we are going to join with our color A again here and do some stitching to connect our two pieces. Once you've got your pieces nicely lined up, you want to start at the upper corner of the bag. Go through both layers with your hook and work single crochets through both layers evenly down one side, across the bottom, and up the other side. When you get to these two corners down here, you'll go ahead and work an extra single crochet at each bottom corner to help you get around that corner nicely. Now remember, there's a different number of stitches in this front piece and in this back piece. So as you work across, just use your best judgment and as needed, go through these back stitches twice, 5 different times across the bottom of your bag. Like I say, put an extra single crochet across at this corner then and work back up this side. When you get up here, do not break your yarn. We'll move on to working around the top of the bag. Now, on our little demo piece, I've got a few stitches as if I've worked all the way around the bag, and now I'm ready to work around the top of our bag. So what we do when we've reached this other side is you chain 1, and now we very simply single crochet in each stitch across the top. You'll start on the first stitch of the front of the bag here, and then simply single crochet in each stitch. When we get to the other side, where of course this will have already been connected if you've done your previous step, then simply go from that stitch to this stitch. Single crochet all the way around, and when you get back around, be sure to join with a slip stitch. So here I have finished round 1 of working around the top. You can see I've single crocheted all the way around and joined with a slip stitch there when I got back to the first stitch. So now we're ready for round 2. Again, I like to start with a chainless starting double crochet, but if you prefer, you can start with a chain 3 or whatever double crochet substitute you like. I'm going to go right on into that very first single crochet of round 1, like so, and then I'm going to chain 1. Then we begin the section with the asterisk, which is our repeat for round 2. We double crochet in the next stitch. And this is going to be a little different than the other repeats because we go into the very next stitch. We have a double crochet worked in that first stitch. We needed to add an extra stitch here. So bear with me. Very next stitch, we double crochet. Then we chain 1. Then we skip 1. We didn't skip a stitch here. That's okay. From here on out, we're going to skip a stitch. So we skip the next one, double crochet in the stitch after that, chain 1, skip the next one, double crochet in the stitch after that. And we'll continue doing that all the way around. We go across the front, and then we continue on and go across the back. As we come around the back, we should end with being able to skip the last stitch here. We double crochet, chain 1, skip the last stitch, and then we join to the top of that very first chainless starting double crochet or the chain 3, creating this great mesh to weave our ropes through. So at the end of row 2 there, you should have this great mesh ready for our ropes. But we need to do just a little bit more work. We're going to flip it over and work across the bottom. Now across the bottom on your piece, of course, you should have gone through both layers, and you should still have 39 stitches or so, as well as the stitches on the corner. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and make sure that we find that corner stitch, the extra single crochet that we put at each of those corners. I forgot to mention it earlier, but if you were following along with the written instructions, you would have put a stitch marker in each of those corner stitches. The extra one that you added when you came down the side, add an extra one, and then across the bottom. That that stitch rather should be marked, and so should this one here at this end. If not, just go back and look really closely at your work. You can find the 39 that you worked across the bottom and the 2 on either side. What we're going to do here is we're going to rejoin our color A, or whatever color we used for the bottom of our bag, to the bottom marked corner here. We're going to join with a single crochet. So I'm going to twist and drop a loop onto my hook, and then I would go right into that marked stitch on the corner and work a single crochet. Pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Then chain 2, 1, 2, and then work a single crochet in each stitch across, starting with the next stitch, and then just go on across the bottom of the bag. Now you should only have 1 layer to work through here because you're working into the seam that you worked across the bottom of the bag. We just want to keep working all the way across until 1 stitch remains. So let me get across the bottom of the bag here. Alrighty, so when you get to the end of that row, and you'll have a nice row that works all the way around your bag, you'll of course chain 2 and then single crochet in that very last stitch. So that would be your second marked stitch there. Then you can go ahead and break your yarn and weave in your ends. And I like to sort of tuck it up nicely into the side seams there. This is going to leave us with 2 little holes here at the bottom where we can anchor our ropes. So let's take another look at the finished bag and how that comes together. But wait, I almost forgot to add the cherry on top. Here's our little sample one, just our first row, a little more proportionate to our bag right here. What you want to do is after you make your cherries, we're going to take these tails and you can use those tails to sew right here to the front of the bag. So again, on your full size one, you'll have a lot more space, but we just want to sew down right below the drawstring so that it doesn't get caught up in that, but just a nice solid row right across. We don't want to sew down the top or the bottom so that when we pull our drawstring in, the cherry stays nicely on top. So now we'll be ready to add those strings. So let's take another look at our finished bag. Here's that cherry on top, and you can see what I mean. I just sewed a little line right across the cherry right there. We started at this corner and worked our way single crochet down, marked a corner stitch, worked across and up the other side. When we came back for that bottom row, you can see here I joined, chain 2, single crocheted across, leaving that little hole. And up here, if I turn it over, you can see that mesh. So to string our strings on our bag, we cut 2 lengths of rope. We take 1 length of rope, put the fold at this end, and weave back and forth on this side and on this side so that 2 ends of the same rope come out on one side of the bag. Then we take the second rope, put the fold at this end, weave back and forth through these holes so that both ends of that rope come out on the other side. Doesn't matter at all which one you do first, but you just want to make sure that when you pull this way, it's one rope, and when you pull this way, it's the other rope. When you pull down on those ropes, it will cinch up the top of the bag. Then we take those 2 ends of the rope, and we want to come down here, and we want to send them through the backpack from the front to the back. You can see how I did that here. Once it's through that hole, you want to tie a nice tight knot. Now from here, depending on the type of rope you've used, you might want to release any sort of aglets. I've secured these with a bit of just regular desktop tape, masking tape, scotch tape, whatever works to hold them together. But now that it's all put together, I could release those, make it really frizzy if I want to, keep them nice and tight here in the tape if I want. Totally up to you. If you're using a plastic type of rope, you might even be able to melt those ends to make them really secure. Be sure to tie an extra knot if needed, if your rope's a little thinner, to make sure it won't come back through that hole, because that creates the armholes. Then when you close up the bag, you can wear the backpack just like that. And it's just that easy to create your own crochet backpack. And that's how to crochet the Sprinkle Cupcake Backpack. Don't forget, you can find that pattern by Googling Moogly, Sprinkle Cupcake Backpack. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.